Good afternoon and happy Tuesday from Greenbelt Gardens. This afternoon, we're starting out in the grow room just to take a look at the seedlings. They're growing. We've had to switch them over to some dedicated grow lights that are different from where they started off. And that was just kind of our fault. When we purchased lights at the beginning of this year and the tail end of last year, we purchased shop lights. And while they've worked for us in the past, we kind of knew that they were going to be slow in growing things, and that's where these guys ultimately started out. But since we've moved them over to our dedicated grow lights that we usually use for when plants are more in their vegetative state, they have benefited greatly from that. They've actually doubled in size in the last week and a half. So they obviously enjoy the bigger light spectrum that comes along with it. And we just have to make sure we keep a good distance. I just lowered these down today. These were probably maybe 6 inches from light, and then these were probably maybe about 4 inches from light. And just a little bit, started to see them kind of discolor on some edges, so maybe we started to see some burnt leaves and having them slightly too close. Definitely with these guys. Not so much these. These are expected to brown and fall off. These are the beginning leaves that just kind of open up just like this is right here. They eventually shrivel off and die, but what we were trying to avoid is getting burnt. Like some of these are exhibiting. There was one that was a really good example, and now I've lost him after I kind of turned the trays around. Either case, we're trying to avoid being burnt by the lights because in this case, they're just here from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. constantly. We've got a fan that's currently just oscillating back and forth to help kind of keep them moving a bit. Not really necessary, but at the same time, it helps keep heat from building up with the grow lights because these guys do put off a pretty decent amount of heat, even though they're LEDs, and with it just consistently being stagnant. We also have our indoor regiment for fertilizing that we've been doing pretty much every week for these guys, and they've enjoyed that. So we fertilized them on Saturday night. I want to say Saturday night or Sunday, one of the last point, this last time that we went around, and much happier now that they're here and away from the shop lights. Same goes for the little batch of herbs that we have here that are growing. Some basil. Not exactly sure what all we put in there. And then our other ingrowns, or the indoor ones that we have here for the mango trees and the lettuce that my sister started for us. So that's all we really got going on inside. These guys are going to be for the fall crop. They're going to be placed out there in some of the bare areas that we have from other plants that have died off or have been past their time for some of the determinate tomatoes. So we'll make spots out there for them. And these are all tomatoes. No peppers in this particular batch, except for the companion plants that we have here. These are all different types of indeterminates that we've never tried before. I think maybe one or two of them that we've tried, but there's a couple of new ones that we want to see how they do for the fall season. And then all of these are determinate, but they're dwarf determinates. And those are going to stay mostly in here, right? Those are going to get populated in potted, in cloth pots to be here. Well, I'll say cloth pots. We'll find some other pots to put them in because we may sell them as individual plants as well, not just the fruit that they bear. And then we have our grow tents back inside as well. So we're going to try some experiments with the grow tents with our much larger and more powerful Vivo Sun lights that we have in here. These are 200 watt grow broad full spectrum LEDs. They even have UV lights. So those are for specific opportunities. We just want to try to see just how well we can get environments to grow. But let's take a walk outside, see what the state of the garden is out there today. It's gonna be hot. Already cooking dinner for tonight. Getting that out of the way now. It kind of sucks kind of trying to cook when it's 100 degrees outside and it's 5 p.m. and the house is hot. Even with your air conditioner pumping, it's a lot easier for me to cook right now and not have to deal with so much heat in the house. Speaking of heat, let's see how hot it is outside today. Currently it is 97 degrees. Got some of our cherry tomatoes starting to ripen over here. Mr. Propagates doing this thing. Ah, lizard. Nice to see garden lizards out and about. Like I said, the propagate's doing good. Lots of brand new leaves. He's obviously like being fertilized as well with the mix that we put out here that we actually just did this past weekend as well. We try to keep everything indoor and outdoor fertilized pretty much on the same record, same time scale, so that we know what we're doing. All of our zinnias are just going crazy, which is nice too. They attract a lot of pollinators during the day. We've seen, watch out lizard, I don't want to step on you. I know that you're down there and I'm not trying to scare you. There you go, thank you. We've seen a lot of pollinators in the afternoons now. Once the sun creeps out past the trees, and that's probably 6 o'clock or so, they come out in full force. Lots of honeybees, which is cool. You're standing out here just being passed around honeybee to honeybee, and if you're scared of insects, gardening is a good way to get you over that fear, because you're going to have to deal with them one way or another. And there we go. Yeah, under here under the shade cloth, we get many types of bees. Look at this guy. He's going for it. They love when all of these are starting to flower. That just attracts them so much more. They can smell it. They come on in. They do their thing. And they go from plant to plant. Look at all of these banana peppers. Lots of banana peppers. We pulled off a batch not too long ago. Sold it to one of our neighbors. This guy's ready to come off. Look at nice color. Some of the sun scald that we have on these guys, not so bad. It's just there. Got another one in there that does have some sun scald, or maybe something tried to eat it. He's right there. Might need to pull him off. But yeah, we like to get these to change colors, especially when they're like this. This is like a perfect opportunity. And there's two different varieties here. We have a really long variety that's like that, and then we have these short stubby ones. And these are the ones that you would typically see, like if you order a pizza from Domino's or something, it's kind of what they put in there when they say, here's your sweet banana pepper. So, really nice. Still waiting for them to change. We've got some that have kind of altered their shape there a bit. That could be from a lack of nutrients. That's why we got to keep on our schedule for fertilizing. Something to cause them to not maintain their shape. Something like this too. They just get kind of crazy. Some of them is because they get trapped. They get caught up on a plant, and all of a sudden this is just how they grow out. Because they populate really heavily, and they get really dense at some of the tops, and then they can get stuck on some of the branches. And if we don't realize that, well, then they never grow out to be fully long or anything. Look at this one. This one's starting to break. Nice color, an orange. Coming over here, got a bell pepper that's hiding in here, right next to a bush stake. Sorry, bell pepper, don't want to squeeze you too much. There's the bush stake. We have another smaller bush stake that's actually starting to break over here, right next to another bell pepper again. He's tiny, still worthy to eat though. These guys are starting to break, which is nice, right? These are all the glacier globes. These are like slicer tomatoes, but they're cherry as far as density, but they're cherry tomato in size. Large cherry tomato about that. Finally starting to break. It feels like they've been on here forever. Looks like somebody has eaten this one. Pull that off. Sacrifice that out to the birds in the greenbelt. We've had to deal with some pests. Some leaf-legged bugs have populated in some places and laid some eggs, and we've had to get rid of them. They populate really quickly, and they can overrun a garden really fast. The adults, they're probably could be as big as a pinky, the tip of the pinky, and they're big and black, and they have these weird-looking legs, and they have these elongated bodies, and they look like beetles. They look like stink bugs. But once they lay eggs, they lay them underneath like the backside of a leaf, and they just kind of sit there until it's time to emerge from their egg sacs. And when they do, they have these little bitty red nymphs that just kind of run around, and they attach themselves to the bottom of a fruit, and they start little suckling holes, start poking holes in the fruit. And while it's, it doesn't really damage much of the fruit because some of these are really thick, especially the peppers. They have a really thick skin. Doesn't really change much for the plant, but the more and more of them that populate, the more plants they can affect. And if they start sucking off of the leaves, well, that can really damage the plant. So got to keep an eye on them. Now that we're in the hot temperatures, this one's breaking nicely too. Now that we're in the hot temperatures, they are definitely more present. There's another glacier globe down there that's starting to turn. Still waiting on this batch. This batch is doing nothing. It's just sitting there, staying green. So yeah, for the most part, everything is just taking its time. Per usual, got to be patient when gardening. Everything seems to be like right there on the edge always of being ready to pick, and then you just got to wait and wait and wait. And then you finally get it and you eat it and it's gone in a matter of seconds, and then you got to wait again. It could take months. Here are the red Marconis. You got to always watch out for the backside of these two. The insects, no. The insects fully understand that they're here to get whatever they can get while they can get it, because they'll hide in all the spots that they know that you don't like to look. And, they show some decent sides of intelligence in trying to hide from you. This one is really nice down here. Still waiting on it to start breaking before we turn it down. So yeah, it just gets annoying with the insects because you try to spray and you try to keep them at bay, and they'll just move off to another part of the garden. They'll repopulate and do the same thing over and over again. These are orange suns. I think they're orange suns. They should be. No, these are not orange suns. These are sunbrights. Sunbrights, these will turn yellow. It's like they're starting to turn yellow here. Same thing with the yellow Marconis, slowly making their way out in the world. This is what I talk about too. Like with the banana peppers, they get all bunchy at the top. There's a lot of blossoms up here, and they've already started to emerge and they've already started to populate. They get bunched up and they get stuck on another, and then they start having some deformed shapes, kind of like that. Right, so this is a deformed shape. This is a deformed shape. I don't know if I got that on camera. There we go. So yeah, just the idea that some of these things just happen the way they happen, and that's just the way they are. So you just got to kind of live with it. They still are completely edible. You wouldn't find them in a grocery store because the grocery store would be like, nobody wants a bent pepper. So growing them on your own, you learn how to totally accept the idea that you're going to have some imperfect fruits, imperfect harvest from different types of things, but they're all still completely edible and they taste fantastic. These are the orange suns. We've got lots of orange suns. Starting to break a little bit. They're going just a little more past their green stage, but they're not ready yet. They're not ready to pull off. Got to leave them on there a little longer, which means we got to find ways to make sure we're protecting them longer. So you got to still come out and remain diligent and just look. Try to figure out if there's any plants being attacked by pest invaders. Look at all those little clusters. Boop. Some more clusters. These are again orange suns over in this bed as well. This is a great pepper to grow. We actually had wind damage here not too long ago. We had a storm that passed through, gave us about 3/10 of an inch of rain in about 30 minutes, and it was heavily followed by some wind. And so it broke many of the stalks in this particular bed. And we have those saved as propagates, hopefully. And most of that's because we didn't have our trellising up very well in this bed. We've had issues with trellising here in this one because all the plants are at really various different heights. There's nothing that's consistent about them and how they're growing. We've got some that are tall. We've got some that are short. It just makes trellising a difficulty. So whenever I noticed that the wind had done its job and I had a bunch of them, everything was just kind of laying over on this side, snapped and broken. I did some bamboo stakes. They're not really in the ground very well. I mean, they're about a foot into the bed. And then, you know, as much as I could just put my human pressure into the rock bed below, that's where they're holding. You know, they'll be okay. But, you know, we just need to do a better job at trellising. That's just the end of it. Next year, next season, we'll think of better ways to do that. That way we can be more successful at keeping our plants safe, especially during high wind events, because we do get them here. Despite having all these trees around us for the greenbelt, we get very high winds that come through this particular area. So having wind gusts of 30 miles an hour is something that's normal here, and it's consistent. I mean, I want to say for practically April through May, it was just nothing but relentless wind. It felt like every day was just going to blow plants over. So we get used to it and learn how to adapt and overcome. One of my favorite phrases in my time in the military, because that's exactly what you got to do. Adapt and overcome in all situations, including gardening. Beautiful. Let's go take a look at those propagates. Go back inside real quick. Ooh. We have some more pepper plants that we're growing out here. These poor guys have been sitting. They've been sitting in these pots forever, and they were tiny just like these guys are. And now that we have them here, they've doubled in size in the past week and a half themselves. So same thing with these, I think they're called snake plants. I have no idea what their real name is. We had these all bunched up in one container, and it turns out that my wife decided to split them up, and she found there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 separate viable plants. And so now they're all growing. So got to figure out what to do with them. Maybe we can sell them. Don't really know. We'll try. We'll let them grow, see if they're going to survive a little longer. Let's come into the laundry room. Yeah. So we pulled these guys off. These were the parts of the orange suns that had broken off. Some of them, there were many more. Some of them were just not worth trying to propagate off of, but we're going to try to propagate here. I think there's 5 separate branches from the orange suns in here. If I can see, if I can count those correctly. I think there's 5. Nonetheless, going to see if we can get some root action off of them and plant them. Maybe these guys can go into the grow tents with the dedicated grow lights. Since they've lived their life outside for a while, maybe we can see about putting them in some dedicated pots, put them into the grow tents, and see if we can continue to grow peppers throughout the winter. That sounds like a good idea. All right, well, that's pretty much it from Greenbelt Garden. Thank you very much for spending some time with us today on learning on the state of the garden. And we hope to see y'all again next time. Bye.